Hello, folks. Let me just get this light sorted. Wow, this perfect timing. My light decides to do something completely different. That's very fancy, isn't it? Okay. There we go. That'll do for now. Can everybody hear me all right? Let us see. Hello, everybody. Oh, good. Loads of people. Yes, there we go. Yep, all good. Excellent. Thank you, Bob the Spud. Funnily enough, that was a name that I used to go by. Was Rud the Spud was one of my online monikers for years and years and years. I'm pretty sure actually it is still the original address on my YouTube channel, because my YouTube channel goes back to about maybe about 2005, perhaps. It's quite an old one. But yeah. So how is everyone going? Also, just as a disclaimer, just the profile picture that I had, I was holding this. As a disclaimer, I do not smoke this. I do not smoke. And smoking is severely hazardous to your health. It will kill you, potentially. So do not do that, because it's very bad for you. I just do this because you can make a point much better by holding this. If there's anything I learned from Bill Bailey, it's pipes can make you look a lot more thoughtful. By just, it allows you to accentuate your point very well, and then just go back into poignant thought. Indeed. So, how are we? Let's have a look at our live chat. Who's saying what? Right, lads, let's do this. James Blight. Okay. If you do 10 more things about the American Civil War. Oh, I could. That would be a very good one. Please excuse me. I have just had a very, very quick dinner. Wonderful. Oh, hello from Finland. I have been to Finland. Finland is a beautiful place. Unni, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Finland is a gorgeous place. I've been to Jyväskylä, and where else? I've been skiing in Himos, and I picked up all sorts of wonderful Finnish phrases, some of which are not suitable for young ears. But I did pick up yksi, kaksi, kolme, neljä, viisi, kuusi, seitsemän, kahdeksan, yhdeksän, kymmenen, which, for anyone who didn't notice my cryptic hand gestures, is counting from 1 to 10. Yes, Winter War, please. Yes, I mean, I've done a very brief section about the Winter War in my 10 more things about World War II. And funnily enough, just to get, seeing as you are all here having a listen, I may as well tell you guys, I am actually working on a similar thing to what I did with my World War I extended edition, where I essentially kind of combined and added a couple of little extended features. It's essentially like the Lord of the Rings extended edition. There's just some things that were left out, or that didn't make it into the original cut. Although the funny thing is, because my my style has changed somewhat, where like in my very first couple of videos in particular, I was so obsessed with getting it nailed down to, like, because like the first, like World War I in 6 minutes, World War II in 7 minutes, and I was so obsessed with getting it done quickly. And even in my script, I still do talk quickly in my videos, but I talked ridiculously fast in those first couple of ones, because I was all about, I was all about getting it done in 6 minutes and blah 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 blah. So this one should be out very soon, and there should be something along with it, which might be quite exciting for the future of this channel. Let's see. War on Terror. Nah, that would be SWAT Team Breaks In. Oh my. History of Apartheid South Africa. That would be very interesting. I don't think, no, I haven't done any African history. I think that would be very, very interesting to do. Let's see. Siege of Malta. Yeah, that sounds cool. What county are you from? Connor Meehan, take a guess. Take a guess. I'll give you a couple of guesses. Okay. Eamon T, hello from Scotland. Who are we doing from Scotland now? What part of Scotland you through? I can do a couple of different Scottish accents. It's a lot of fun, actually. Do like bits and pieces of Glasgow, and a little bit of Edinburgh. I'm just trying to train my ear a little bit more to try and get it. But yeah, there's lovely games of strategy. Yes, you didn't spell it correctly, but you got it. And that is Donegal. Yes, I am from Donegal. Let's see. Do a Gordon Ramsay one. Meme Master, hello. Do a Gordon Ramsay one. A video about Gordon Ramsay. I don't think that script would make it past the censors, in fairness. The censors being me, who doesn't like to put a whole pile of swear words into my videos, and you couldn't not do a video about Gordon Ramsay without that. Well, I mean, challenge accepted, I suppose. Do a video on the Highland clearings. Oh, that would be very interesting. Hey, Daniel Purcell. Hi, Daniel Purcell. Do the Syrian Civil War. That would be very good. Me and Daniel go all the way back to our teenage years. Hi, Daniel. But yeah, the Syrian Civil War is, well, I mean, it's still ongoing. And hi, Daniel. And my thoughts and like what's happening over with the Kurds and the Turks at the moment is very rough and is very tragic, and it is a very sad story that continues to develop, and I hope that the violence doesn't last. But sadly, as history has shown, the Kurds have gotten screwed over time and time and time again in history, and it's very sad to see, and it's very sad to sit back seemingly powerless to do something about it. But I suppose I could make a video on it, but I don't know what good a video coming from me would do to the people who are literally getting blown up at the moment. So best of luck to everyone out there suffering from that. Let's see. I'm Syrian, but live in Turkey. If you hear soon, let me know. I will. German weapons are fighting against German weapons. Oh, what about a Brexit video and its effect on Ireland? Well, I mean, for anyone who watched, I did do my most recent video was a history of the border of Northern Ireland, in which I did touch on Brexit somewhat. Yeah, I mean, again, I have said in the past, although I was kind of having my cake and eating it with that video, because I do tend to keep away from current affairs for a multitude of reasons, mainly because it goes out of date very quickly. Like, I mean, that video already is out of date, where last week they were talking about, they were wondering, was Boris Johnson going to plow on through for a no deal, whereas this week him and Leo Varadkar have come together and have been much more positive in their talks. So this is why I tend to avoid doing things on current affairs. And another reason why I haven't done a video on the Syrian civil war is that reason. And it's a similar reason why I haven't done a video, although I do intend to do a video soon about it, would be about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. because that is a very, very interesting topic, and one that goes back a long time. And I'd be very interested to explore that. But again, it is one of those things where do you finish that? I mean, the Syrian civil war is still going on, and in a lot of ways, and the Israeli-Palestine thing is still going on as well. So where does one draw the line? That's the convenient thing about the likes of revolutions or wars in the past, that they have a beginning, a middle, and an ending, which is why I tend to gravitate towards those for my videos. Let's see, what have we got? Have you heard of the History Channel, The Armchair Historian? Oh, I think I have. Let me just double check. Tappy tap, 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 tap. Everyone's like, oh, wow. Armchair Historian. Have I seen? La, 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 la. I'm just... checking this out. Yes, I have seen this gentleman before. Although I cannot. Yes, I have seen some of that stuff before. I must check out more of it though, because it looks very interesting. Let's see. I have heard of Oversimplified. They're the competition in a lot of ways. Friendly rivalry, although they've kind of flown way ahead. But I do my best to keep up. Quality over quantity is what I try to do. And let's see, what about Spain's and Portugal's completed histories? Well, I mean, history is never complete, but I could, yes, absolutely. Do Nelson Mandela? That would be a fantastic video. Let me see. Oh wow, there's a lot there. Vikings in Ireland, history of Hong Kong. Oh, do Scottish Wars of Independence, please. Labour movement. Oh, let me just double check. Oh, do a video on the Limerick Soviet. It did get a little mention, but yes, I must do some more. Let me just double check for excellent. Because folks over on Patreon, anyone supporting on Patreon gets an automatic their question will be guaranteed to be answered, or at least mentioned and attempted to be answered. There are some questions out there that simply cannot be answered. Who is to know? Let us see. John, how do you feel about the ideas of Scottish and Welsh independence from the UK? That is a very interesting idea. I mean, it's very complicated. I mean, Scotland I suppose Scotland and Wales in the past have asserted their in militant terms to not be a part of or to not be ruled by England. I mean, Scotland, I think, kind of was absorbed via the royalty, and it kind of defaulted into what became the United Kingdom. But then I suppose Wales was just exceptionally well controlled by the English. When I was over in Wales in September, I found the castles were just amazing. But even just that idea of how the castles were built to control the Welsh, for the English to control the Welsh, and yet there's Carnarvon Castle, Conway Castle, and I was down in Pembroke Castle as well. There's so many castles. Wales has the highest concentration or highest amount of castles in any of the countries of the UK. Fun fact. But yeah, whether or not they'd want it, well, I mean, the question of Scottish independence is a much more relevant one in that it is something that could relatively realistically see happen if the was it Scottish Nationalist Party, if they gonna continue on their way, and if Brexit happens, because that was the thing, they felt that they were completely shortchanged, where they had their referendum for independence. Was it in 2015? I think, yeah, in 2015, and then the following year, 2016, the Brexit vote happened, and Scotland voted to remain in the European Union, but the majority throughout the United Kingdom voted otherwise. And so I suppose it, even though the Scottish independence referendum was allowed as a once in a generation kind of a thing, they were sold a dud if they were sitting there voting, well, if we're remaining inside the European Union, then yes, we want to remain part of the United Kingdom. But if the United Kingdom's leaving the European Union, then we might think otherwise. So it is very interesting. As a country that was once part of the United Kingdom and fought for their independence, I can appreciate another country's desire for independence as well. So, if that's what the people want, and if they can do it, particularly, if Scotland could achieve that without any violence, that would be amazing. It would be a victory for a peaceful campaign. But who's to know what's going to happen? But here's hoping. Alba go bra. Let's see. 10 more facts about the War of 1812. Could be done, absolutely. The breakup of Yugoslavia, that is definitely a video that I want to do at some point. I have a whole list. I have a never-ending list. Joseph Stalin. That's an interesting choice for a moniker on YouTube. Hey, John, have you ever considered making alternate history videos? That is something. I mean, I already spend so long making a video. I'm not sure how constructive it would be to make a video about history that didn't happen, or because alternative history, as fun as it is, particularly as a history geek, alternate history is a lot of fun, and I love it in a lot of really good stories. Oh, sorry, just to Maryland Brony. Ever see Dairy Girls? I love Dairy Girls. Dairy Girls is one of the best things to have come out of dairy in a long time, and Dairy Girls is excellent. But yeah, what was what was I saying? Please remind me. This is how bad my short-term memory is. It's god awful. I should not have distracted myself. What was I saying? Oh dear. Oh yeah, alternate history. That's what I was saying. Yes, thank you, Eric Johnson. Yeah, so alternate history. Yeah, as fun as it is, I'd prefer to continue to educate the world in actual history. Just it's a better use of my time, and there's loads of other places to do it. I did consider doing a video, and I mean, funnily, the script is actually written for it. I wrote the script for it in I think about 2014 maybe, but it was the history of Metal Gear Solid, but told as a history, starting in like 1963 or 4, and going all the way up to 2014 with the Metal Gear Solid 4. It's bizarre to think that Metal Gear Solid 4 was based in the future, and the future was 2014. It's like 2014 in the past. I always find it bizarre when that happens. Let's see. Second best thing to come out of Derry was the bananas. Oh, the Bananas Play Area and Brunswick Movie Bowl. Oh, bananas. I had, or there was another one in Derry. Like bananas was great, but there was one. I think, was it called Fantasy Island or something? I think it was there. I was at many a birthday party there when I was a kid, and I think it was called that, or maybe that was in Coleraine or somewhere. But yeah, I have nothing but good memories about that place. And when we got to go there for, like, if it was one of our friends' birthday parties and like a whole gang of 10 of us would go there, it would be the best, because you could have like the most amazing game of TIG, or tag as some of you folks call it. But we call it TIG. And yes, good memories, good memories. Let's see. Wayne's World of Moncrana. Oh God, I don't know that one. That one's beyond my time, I think, actually. Although, funnily enough, speaking of Wayne's, for anyone who doesn't know, folks in the north end of Ireland and Scotland will know Wayne's is a slang word that we use. It means wee ones, which means children. So we call children Wayne's, and so it's a wonderful pun when it comes to these children's adventure centers. By the way, for anyone who was completely lost there when I was talking about bananas and Fantasy Island, it was one of those big massive jungle gym things with all of the padded floors and things, big giant slides, and it was completely out of context. People are sitting there going, what is he talking about? That's what I was talking about. But yeah, speaking of Wayne's, I just got done working on Wayne's Fest, which is a festival organized every year by the Letterkenny Libraries, or not the Letterkenny Libraries, Donegal Libraries, through the Donegal County Council. And I was doing a series of history talks, and this morning, on Thursday, I was in Twin Towns Community Library in Stranorlar, where I was talking about the history and development of armor and weapons, and doing a little bit of drawing with them as well. And then I was doing the same in Ballyshannon yesterday, Friday, and then on this morning. It was this morning. I was doing a YouTube workshop with kids, all talking all about how, just the basic introduction to how to make a video. So I was bringing them through coming up with an idea, and writing down your ideas and planning it, writing a script, shooting some stuff with the camera, and then a very, very brief introduction to video editing. So it was a lot of fun. So thank you very much for Wayne's Fest for having me, and I hope to be with you again in the future. Let's see. Rory Gallagher. Yes, I always find the whole thing with Rory Gallagher really funny. For anyone who doesn't know, Rory Gallagher is an amazing blues guitarist who was born in Ballyshannon, County Donegal, and every year they have a massive Rory Fest, big massive blues festival. But I mean, he was a Cork man. Like, realistically, he's, like, Ballyshannon claims him, and they've got this great guitar. They've got a great statue of him playing guitar, and it's fantastic. But I always find it very funny because he's a Cork man. It's like saying Tommy Tiernan is a Carndonagh man. It's like, yeah, he was born in Carndonagh, but I mean, he's a Navan man. So yeah. But yeah, Rory Gallagher's amazing. Bad Penny, all the way. David Toy playing for 20 minutes. Let's see. What else do we have? Can you do a video on Michael Collins? Do you know, actually, I would, speaking of Cork men, I would love to do a video of Michael Collins. Michael Collins is a very interesting character in Irish history. Yeah, he's, unless you're talking about Michael Collins of the Apollo 11 mission, in which I would also love to do a video about that Michael Collins. Well, I actually really want to do a video about the space race. So that Michael Collins will most certainly be included in that, along with Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. Michael Collins was the guy who stayed up. Could you imagine being Michael Collins in that mission? It's sitting in the car. It's like sitting in the car, watching your friends going in to do something really cool, and then they come back out and they're like, "Oh my God!" And he's just sitting there behind the wheel going, I can't believe I had to keep this engine running, It's like just looking. You can just imagine him looking down onto the moon. I wish I was down there. I'm so close. He was so close. He was right there. He's just looking down, going, "Oh, the guys look like they're having a lot of fun." But yeah, Sean Burke, have you ever considered making a podcast? Funny you should mention that. Watch this space. Ooh. The history of guys named Michael Collins. I know, right? But yeah, what you should do, if you haven't already, there have been some folks getting in on the early action of John D. Ruddy Does Stuff, which is my second YouTube channel, which I have set up just to be a little bit more casual. And obviously, these live streams are somewhat more casual as well. But for example, the video that I have over there at the moment is Disney versus Sony is like Brexit and the whole Spider-Man debacle. So, I'm not going to make an entire Man video about that. And for anyone subscribed to the main John D. Ruddy channel, I don't want to suddenly inundate them with a whole pile of random musings of me talking about Spider-Man and Brexit. It's like that's not what you subscribed for, was it? But also, it's just it's going to be a different vibe over there. I'm going to do a couple of let's play videos as well. There's a whole pile of video games, older video games that I want to play through and try it out, see what you guys make of it. So head over now if you obviously stay on this live stream, but open up a new tab there and find John D. Ruddy Does Stuff and go and hit subscribe. Let's see how many subscribers there are on it at the moment. It was actually quite humbling starting up a new channel because it reminds you of, because it's something you do take for granted a little bit, that just how massive this channel has gotten to, where it's now at like 222,000 subscribers. It's massive, and thank you so much, everybody. But then John D. Ruddy Does Stuff is on 366 subscribers. And 367 subscribers. I just refreshed. Thank you, whoever went over there and subscribed. So thank you very much. But yeah, so it's really interesting just to remember. Oh yeah, it didn't just happen overnight. It takes time. So the more subscribers I have over there, and the more people can start to enjoy the madness that is John D. Ruddy Does Stuff. Let's see how that goes. Let's see. John, will you ever make Mexican-American war video? Yes. The short answer is yes, I will at some stage. When that is a different question. But I do have a few lined up to do before I get that far. Let's see. You think Merkel is the new Hitler? No, that is silly. Just, mm. Yeah. Oh God. Oh my God. You know, I. That comparisons like that really annoy me because they're not to, those comparisons are not to be made lightly, and we're going to get very serious for a minute. Um, those comparisons, I kind of feel that the whole, well, it's, it became a running joke on the internet to compare people to Hitler, and it was always just a thing of how um, uh, yeah, how internet arguments will always eventually get to a point where someone is compared to Hitler, and it got to a point where comparing somebody to Hitler, it's like, oh well, that's the end of that argument, and I think that partially kind of backfired in a lot of ways, that has kind of allowed a lot of actual folks who agree with Nazi sentiment nowadays, aka the alt-right, um, aka actual white supremacists, um, aka actual Nazis, um, white nationalists, all of the, I feel, obviously, I mean, just comparing people to Hitler didn't just start that, but at the same time, I think there was an element of complacency that happened where it's like, oh, you're just comparing them to Hitler. Oh, your argument is null and void. It's like, well, no. I mean, if they're going to carry a Nazi flag to a parade, or a flag that they have all secretly agreed is a Nordic symbol that is all going to dog whistle to each other, hey, white supremacy. Please don't turn that little thing into a meme, please, because that's not what I stand by. Absolutely not. But yeah, some supporters of particular politicians, yes. Well, actually, I don't even know why I'm skirting around it. I have pointed this out in videos before. Some Trump supporters, not all of them, but some Trump supporters who, are, yeah, it's a crazy world. It's a crazy world out there. And the world kind of needs to not be so complacent about it, and they're very good at, I mean, I'm not speaking particularly well on this at the moment, but they're very good at steering conversations, and they're very good at manipulating conversations and making it sound like they're winning. So yeah. Let's see. But yeah, fun. This live stream got really fun. Will you ever do a video on the fall of Western Roman Empire, since it is the biggest change in world order until the 20th century? Yeah, I want to do another video about ancient times. I think it would be very interesting, and that period is just fascinating. It's actually quite scary in a lot of ways. Just when you see the the technological sophistication that was the Roman Empire, and how it all fell apart, and for hundreds of years Western Europe just went backwards in a lot of ways. People forgot how to read and write, and people forgot how to build these massive structures. Like there are reasons why there are very few buildings from the 6th century. Because a lot of that stuff was made of wood, because they didn't know how to build things made out of stone. They were just, like, it was, well, I mean, so they did, but they couldn't make these massive temples, and like, they couldn't build a Colosseum, and the Colosseum was built, hundreds and hundreds of years before that, and they were looking at the Colosseum going, how did they do that? And then eventually, once they started to kind of work it out, and that's why the earliest kind of cathedrals are of a Romanesque style, because they looked at what the Romans did, and they're like, okay, right, I think we can work this out. But yeah, the technology went like, it didn't go backwards, but it maybe it paused for a while. Actually, a lot of it did revert, and that is a very dangerous thing that can potentially happen again. I mean, it would take something very drastic, particularly nowadays, because of the technology we have and the massive population that we have. But it's not impossible. I mean, it happened before; it would happen again. Interestingly enough, though, going back to Ireland, it was during that time, while the rest of the Roman Empire fell apart, that Ireland actually went through kind of one of its real golden ages, because the rest of Europe was just all the various, the Visigoths and the Goths and the Franks and all the different barbarian tribes, or as they were depicted. And Ireland, like, I mean, yeah, we had our own feuding clans as well, but Ireland, all the Christian monks in the monasteries in Ireland kind of helped to keep Western civilization in a lot of ways together, because, like, a lot of literacy, a lot of academia disappeared, and so they were the ones who, funnily enough, it was Irish monks that invented the space between words, because before that, words were like, when you were writing in Latin, and you'll see this in old carvings, all the words are just placed together, and it was the Irish monks that were like, oh, this is way too awkward to try and work out, so they started putting a space, or I think they put a dot in between words just to separate words. They were the ones who had the ingenious idea to separate words. But yeah, let's see. The collapse of the Roman Empire is like smashing a nice glass vase on the ground into countless pieces. That is true. Yeah, because, like, when you look at the art of, like, I mean, the sculpture of the ancient Rome, ancient Greece, like, look at that, and then look at, early medieval art, and so it's just complete. Now, I mean, one could argue, oh well, it was a style, but just that understanding of human anatomy, that understanding of how to draw a person, of how to draw a human form, was lost, and even just composition and being able to create depth in your pictures and stuff, it was just completely lost. And the and then it's quite amazing then to see that reemerge. There's an artist, Giotto, I think he's 14th century, Giotto, Italian, but in Padua, there is a beautiful little church. It's called, the name is escaped, the Scrovegni, I think it's called, and he did all of these murals on the wall, and it's like just on the cusp. It's just pre-Renaissance, but you see the potential of what became the Renaissance, and a lot of the greats, like the Da Vinci's, Michelangelo's, they would have went to this church and looked at the walls and go, wow, this is amazing. But yeah, some fun facts for you there. Let's see. The The Romans are literally the reason why we use the Latin alphabet. Yes, that is true. Yeah, I mean the idea of the alphabet, I think or at least a lot of those original words came from the Phoenicians, I do believe, which is where I think we get the term like phonetics. It was the Phoenicians. Their writing, like I think like the letter A, I think was kind of I think it was like an eagle, and whenever you actually look at the shape of I always find that really interesting when you see letters. That I'm a serious like kind of linguist geek, although completely unacademic in that way. Like it's just a real a casual casual fascination with it. But like whenever you look at the likes of I and J in the alphabet, like they were once the same letter, and as the English wasn't well as or they were they once the same letter. V and U were once the same letter, and I and J were kind of seemingly interchangeable. But then one became the consonant and one became the vowel, and they separated. Now that's maybe a little bit mildly inaccurate, so don't quote me on that, but there's something to that effect. I also love it where you see what I like to call linguistic fossils in words, particularly in the English language. Like you look at numbers are a great one, because if you look at like the number 2, where does that W come from? 2, it's just 2. But then you look at other related languages like German, and it's zwei, and you get that W. Or in Swedish where it's två, so they pronounce it's 2, whereas we just say 2. We lost the pronunciation, but at one stage in kind of early Anglo-Saxon, it probably would have been something along the lines of två, but it became 2. And same with 8 as well. Like why is it EIGHT? But then again, you look at other languages, even like Latin, where it's oct. It's octo. But look at German again, acht. Like it's that guttural sound is pronounced, but we just don't pronounce it anymore. It's just it. But it would have at some stage been echt. Fascinating. Yeah, V was pronounced with W. Yes. Yeah, there are a lot of even linguistically nowadays there are certain dialects that where they're quite swappable actually, which is quite interesting. Is it true that Irish immigrants fought for Mexico during the Mexican-American War? I think so. I mean, the Irish ended up fighting everywhere. After the Irish Civil War, there were so many folks who were kind of now. I mean, I'm being very glib about this, but there were so many folks who were just so used to being in fighting mode at that point that they all went to Spain and fought in the Spanish Civil War, and because of the differing ideals, some fought on one side and some fought on the other. So you had these Irish guys going and fighting on both sides of the Spanish Civil War. But yes, the Mexican War of Independence, I think so. I need to double check. But there's a great place here in Letterkenny. I'm going to give you a little shout out. Burrito Loco. They do an amazing burrito. And this was not sponsored at all. They're just that good. So if you're ever in Letterkenny, go to Burrito Loco. You're welcome, Tommy. But yeah, it's yeah, they have a little thing on the wall about an Irish brigade that fought in Mexico, but I'm not sure. I think it might be from the 1860s, but I need to double check that. So it is quite possible the Irish popped up in a lot of very random places during history. Hi, John. How do you come up with your drawing ideas? That's from Conor O'Grady. Well, yeah, it's sometimes it's very easy, and occasionally it can be quite tricky. Usually, like whenever I'm drawing images for the videos, I'll be I'll write the script first, and I'll have some vague ideas in my head what I want. But I'll write the script, and then I'll start reading the script and be just thinking, right, what do I want to see when I'm reading this sentence? You know, so say, unfortunately, most of the what was it? I can't even think of the line at the moment, but you know, it's like, okay, so this sentence is talking about Germany, so I want to see Germany. This sentence is talking about Britain, so I want to see Britain. This sentence is talking about Winston Churchill, so I want to see Winston Churchill. And then on top of that, then sometimes, you know, like whenever they're saying something rather comical, sometimes I will say that, or sometimes I'll come up with it in advance, like when I'm writing down my list of illustrations. So I'm reading the script, writing down the illustration list, and sometimes if I think of the joke, then I'll just write down the little joke just so I remember when I'm going back to draw it later. And then occasionally I'll just get to it, and I'll be like, okay, I have to draw a picture of these two people. What will they say to each other? I know they'll say this, blah blah blah, and usually it can be funny. And I'd be interested to see if there's anyone who has actually gone through each of my. It's quite possible they were kind of designed that way, that you could pause and read every single little detail. Occasionally it is occasionally there are some little Easter eggs in there. Oh wow. A fellow Ruddy just from Canada. My family comes from Northern Ireland. Was just wondering if you were a distant cousin, mate. Who's to know? Ruddy isn't a particularly common name. What part of Canada? I've been to Canada. I'm married to a Canadian. Good place. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. What do you think of the American Irish culture? I think it's quite fascinating. I find any place where you have a lot of immigration, it becomes your identity becomes so much more important, and so particularly in North America or any big city where you've got a lot of immigration, is there's an element where when you're surrounded by that culture, when you're surrounded by, or when you're in the majority, that identity is less important. But then when you're outside of that, you almost kind of become more about it, you know. So it's very interesting, particularly in North America, of just the different communities and different communities identifying with their identity, you know, be it Irish, be it Italian, be it you know, all sorts of different communities. I find it really interesting. And then as the generations go on, how much, you know, it can change, or you know, whether the connection with you know, because there'll be a lot of people who, you know, consider themselves Irish and will go, you know, go out on St. Patrick's Day, and yet maybe have never even been to Ireland. And for anybody out there who's in that boat, please bring that boat and come to Ireland and experience it for yourself. But yeah, it is really fascinating. And like even just the likes of Halloween, which was originally an Irish, an ancient Celtic festival, Ihauna, or Samhain, as it be known as well. But yeah, no, it is. I love it. Although, I mean, you know, you do get then the stereotypes that get frustrating. You know, like what we call paddywhackery. You know, where because and all the, you know, oh, they're always after me, Lucky Charms, and all that kind of stuff, where you're just like, that has nothing to do with anything. But when it's authentic, it's great, you know. And I'm all for it. I have a lot of cousins, like who are born in America, and shout out to everybody over there. But yeah, like because I would have had uh, several like great aunts and uncles who would have went, you know, a century ago over to America and had their families over there, and their families have since gotten in touch with my families back here, and so we've made that connection, and it's wonderful, and it's really nice to be able to bring them over here and to show them where their roots are, which is really nice. Um, so, hi, all my American family. Um, and let's see. Um, Thank you, Lol's Cookie. Hey, man, I just wanted to stop by to tell you that I really enjoy your video and to keep it up. Thank you very much. I thoroughly intend to keep it up. Um, oh, let's see. Just asking. What were you just asking? Nope, lost. Oh, Evan Murray. You're asking a very contentious question there. Michael Collins or Dev? Now, I mean, I'm going to fly my colors high on this. I go Collins. You know, just on the basic principle of. I mean, now he's. I think I said this in the. I was asked this in the previous stream, so I'm not going to go too much into this, but you know, Collins was trying to compromise, and he was like, yeah, I mean, he is responsible for a lot of deaths. You know, it was a war, but I think ultimately, kind of in the at the beginning of the Irish Free State, I think he was willing to compromise, and he saw the Irish Free State as a vehicle to ultimately achieve an Irish Republic. And he knew that he wasn't going to get it any other way. And just the stubbornness of Dev and his crowd very much frustrates me. And part of me feels like it was a political power play that Dev ended up on top after the Civil War. Eventually, I mean, he ran the country for decades. Um, you know, and he was deeply conservative, and yeah, yeah. It's again, it's one of those big ifs. Going back to the alternate histories, it would have been really interesting to see what if Michael Collins had a survived. What if Michael Collins and Arthur Griffith had a survived the Civil War? That's one thing that I always find as I'm going through my when I'm making my history videos is sometimes I'll discover certain people. I'll discover certain uh, figures in history, and they die, and you're just like, I wonder what the world would have been like if they hadn't have died at that point in history. um like Tecumseh during the War of 1812, him and Sir Isaac Brock, if they had have made it through the War of 1812, um how different North America may or may not have been, because they were very much voices of reason, and voices of kind of of respect. But yeah, um, let's see. Um, oh, yes, we're moving very quickly, folks. My chair is very squeaky. I need to do something about it. Oh, someone's saying cheers from Canada. Saying what? Oh, thank you, Frederick the Second. Cheers from Canada. Um, hey, John, do you think would still pull the trigger if somebody time traveled and told him what will happen if he kills Franz Ferdinand. Well, I mean, I can't speak for that person. But yeah, I mean, there is an argument to be made that World War One was gonna happen in some, it was that was the thing that ended up sparking it, but it was waiting to happen. Whether it would have been him, whether it would have been another political crisis. But that is, again, this is completely speculation because the only thing that happened was Franz Ferdinand got shot. But I mean, that's what what's his name? Bismarck. Yeah. He predicted it in like the 1880s or 1890s. He said it is probably going to be something stupid, like probably something stupid in the Balkans that will spark this huge conflict, and he was bang on. Yeah, it was always going to be something because all of those allegiances were so intertwined. All you needed was two of the wrong countries to go to war with each other, and that's what happened. Because it started out being, what was it, Serbia and Austria-Hungary. And that initial conflict brought everybody else in. But again, it was one of those things where it was one of those things that, like, the political landscape was just so intense that there was this tension that it almost, like, I hate to say it, but it needed to be broken in some way, or at least that's what ended up happening. I mean, you could have dealt with it otherwise, but unfortunately, I think at that time the value of peace, I don't think, was fully appreciated back then, because of the attitude of war, that, oh, good, what, like, war was seen as a necessity. War was seen as, well, yeah, it's great, to set, give jobs to the boys, and on and off they go, and they can become a man if they come back at all. Whereas I think the world nowadays is much more hesitant to go to war. I mean, obviously, you also have the threat of nuclear weapons, which doesn't help. But yeah, it's yeah, World War One was crazy. Let's see. Joseph Versil, hello. Do you play the bagpipes? I do not play the bagpipes. I've never tried playing the bagpipes. I wouldn't mind trying to play the bagpipes, but I do not play the bagpipes. I do play the trumpet, but I do not play the bagpipes. I do play the piano a little bit. I'm self-taught, and for anyone who actually plays the piano, watching me play chords is entertainingly painful because I don't play properly. Like, because I'm a trumpeter, I'm just used to these three fingers. Just, not that one. So I'm just, etc., etc. So when I'm playing a chord on the piano, I just use these three fingers, and my pinky and my thumb just sit there uselessly while I'm like diddle 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 diddle, where I could really go diddle 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 diddle. But no, I insist on stretching my fingers out wide and go diddle 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 diddle. So yeah, but I do not play the bagpipes. Oh, someone wants a Byron. That Plego guy wants a Byron. Get a Byron. Byrons are good. For anyone who doesn't know, a Byron is the Irish traditional drum where you and don't do that because that sounds horrific. Let's see. Could you do a video about the three Republican governments: presidential, semi-presidential, or parliamentary? Oh, right. Oh, just the different forms of a republic. Yes, that could be quite interesting. I think so. That would be good. Yes, I don't see why not. Chicaro 3. Funny story. My history teacher gave us your American Civil War video as a study aid. Was a nice surprise. I'm glad I can be used. There you go. In that way. Thank you. Let's see. I saw some of your posts on Instagram. I want to congratulate you for trying mountaineering. Screw tape 4. Yes. Well, I mean, I'm not a mountaineer, but yeah, I do enjoy hill walking, and Donegal is a beautiful place for hill walking. The highest mountain here is Mount Errigal, just Errigal, and it is gorgeous, really, really nice. And then there's Muckish as well. Muckish is a great one. Muckish is so named because in the Irish language, muck is a pig, and the top of Muckish is like a big plateau. And so it's flat like the top of a pig's back, and so it's muckish. And there's a great path that goes up the back of Muckish. It's an old miner's path. It's quite epic to go up. It's really cool. Hi, John. Are there any movies, shows, books, etc., that are blatantly historically inaccurate, but you can't help liking anyway? Yes, there are two in particular. One of which is Michael Collins, the movie. I love that film so much. And the more you know about Irish history, the more inaccurate it becomes. Like particularly the sequence at the start with the Easter Rising, where they all come out the front of the GPO surrendering, and they're all like got their hands up, and Dev's there, Michael Collins there, whereas in reality, Dev was over in Boland's Mill, and they didn't surrender from the GPO. They evacuated out the back of the GPO and worked their way to Moore Street and held out for another day, and then eventually surrendered. And that first surrender was Nurse Elizabeth O'Farrell, who walked up to the barricades waving her white flag. But yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's a great story, and like I understand why they depicted it. They depicted the Easter Rising in that way because it needed to be quick. It needed to be, they needed to get it. It wasn't a movie about the Easter Rising. It was a movie about Michael Collins, and so they just need, they couldn't get into the nitty gritty of, oh, we're in Moore Street now. They need an audience who doesn't know it. The GPO is the shorthand for the Easter Rising, and then they come out surrendering. That's fair. I understand why they do that. And then likewise, whenever Dev is then in prison writing his letter, the first person you see executed is Thomas Clark, and then he finishes his letter as James Connolly is being executed. So Thomas Clark was executed, I think, on the 3rd of May. 1916, and James Connolly was executed on the 12th of May. So Dev took his time writing that letter. And not only that, but I think I don't think he discovered that he was off the hook. Although that being said, that's taking that cut very literally. I'm being very nitpicky about that. It's a stylistic choice, it's an editorial choice, and it works, and it's powerful, and it's great. But yeah, there's loads of little historical inaccuracies in it, but I love it. It's so good. Another film, which I can't help but love, despite being historically horrific, is Braveheart. Braveheart is an excellent film. But Braveheart is not historical in most of the sense, from the costume to, the Battle of Stirling Bridge isn't even at a bridge. It's just all over the place. But it is brilliant. It's so good. They may take our land, but they will never take. Oh no, they may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom. So good. art map. What is your opinion of communism? That's not a loaded question. Communism. Great in theory. I mean, communism in its purest sense it sounds great, where everybody is sharing everything. Nobody necessarily or everybody owns everything, and you just use something when you need it, and when you don't need it, you put it back, and that's fine. Now, obviously, I'm being very, very simple here. It's a lot more complicated than that, but at a very basic level, But the problem is I hate to say this, human nature. There's always going to be someone who will screw the system, and that's the problem. There's always going to be someone who will take too much. There's always going to be someone who will break something and not fix it, and very quickly the whole thing falls apart. Yeah. But I do enjoy the idea of socialism, where essentially everything that should be run by the government or should be run by the state is run by the state, and everything else is up for grabs. That nobody should be left out. Let's see, Sean Moonachan. Opinions on Irish rugby at the moment. Well, that was a brave match this afternoon against Samoa. Hammered them completely. I was glad to see. Now, I didn't get. I only got watching the last half hour of it. I listened to the first half on the radio as I was driving. But it was very good. But up until now, we haven't been playing amazing teams, and I'm not sure. Now, they could surprise me. I hope they will surprise me, but I'm not sure how this team will do against the likes of New Zealand, because they are a pretty darn good team. I mean, I love to think about the possibility of Ireland winning a Rugby World Cup. It's certainly in us. I mean, the capability is technically there, but I think the Irish team has a tendency of completely psyching itself out. And once they start losing, they're like, "Oh no, we're losing. We can't do anything. Oh no!" Like, I mean, that Japanese game was just, fair play to Japan for beating us. But yeah. Now, that being said, I don't follow it too much. I mean, I follow the Irish matches because happy days. I enjoy a good World Cup, but like, I mean, I don't. I'm not a sports person, so I mean, my my opinion isn't amazing on it. And oi oi from Coleraine. Hey, D-Terminator. Hi, Coleraine. Did you come and see my play when I was in Coleraine in, was it February or March? We had Manny Man Does the History of Ireland on stage. We played in Coleraine. It was is the waterfront? Well, the waterfront's in Belfast, but it's something to do with the waterfront. Waterside Theatre, I think, in Coleraine. Let's see. Just take a couple more. Hey, John, are you going to watch the films 1917 and Midway coming out later this year? Probably. It hasn't been on my list until now, but I should. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Norse history? Norse history is quite fascinating. It's very difficult to find a point in history that's not fascinating in some way. Now, it can often be presented very badly, but as I always say, history is people. History is people. And like when I was doing a history talk with the kids yesterday, and I started off just saying, are the people, like what because we're like talking about people earlier in history, like what's the difference between us and the people living in the Stone Age are us, and people living, in any other point in history. It's like, are we the same as those people? And some of the kids were like, no, we're not. It's like, are we though? And they're like, well, we're smarter. It's like, are we smarter? Are we smarter than a Stone Age person? And I would argue that we're not. I would argue that we have the same capacity for, like, a lot of anthropologists reckon that if you were to somehow go back in time and take a baby, obviously a Homo sapien, take a baby Homo sapien from the Stone Age and bring it to today, they would grow up a relatively normal life. But they would be able to, they would just grow up as any other child would. But I don't think that we're getting smarter. I think that we have the same capacity for knowledge as the folks in the Stone Age. Most of us don't know how to go out and build a shelter and build tools out of wood and stone, and how to make rope, how to do these things, how to track animals, how to navigate using the stars, knowing all the constellations, knowing how to tell the time of year from the stars, knowing all of these, being able to predict the weather using signs in nature. There is a postman here in Donegal who still does that, and he's very attuned to nature, and he gives these weather predictions based on his the things that he notices about the weather. But no, I don't think that we're any smarter. Obviously, we are more knowledgeable, or we're more educated than folks living in the Stone Age. But folks in the Stone Age weren't stupid, and I think that's the key. It's that, it's not that they're unintelligent. They are absolutely not unintelligent. Maybe uneducated, or uneducated in the way that we are educated today. But we don't need to worry about those things. So we're able to concentrate on, modernity and what modernity needs us to know about. But yeah, like, do you know how to go out and start a fire without matches? Like, just using basic Stone Age tools. But like, even when you look at the construction of Newgrange and other structures like that, like these Neolithic tombs that line up with celestial alignments. For anybody who doesn't know, Newgrange is a long passage tomb in Ireland. It's this big, massive mound on the top of a hill, and there's a big, long passage tomb. And at the doorway of this passage tomb, there's a little box above it, a little kind of window above it. And on the winter solstice, when the sun rises, the sun, when it comes over the hill, it shines directly down the passage and lights up the whole passage for, I think, like 17 minutes. And, this was built 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago. This thing's older than the pyramids. And those people were geniuses, or at least the folks who were the masterminds behind it. They were geniuses. That they knew how to do it, and they knew how to construct this thing. Like, you've got people today who, the sun does not rise, Einstein. Figuratively, of course. As the Earth spins towards it, but as we see it, the sun rises. I do understand how celestial bodies move. Thanks. But yeah, they were absolute genius. Because there's people nowadays who look at the pyramids and go, oh, well, they couldn't have possibly built that. But it's like, well, why couldn't they? Just because you don't know how to build a structure that massive doesn't mean that ancient civilizations couldn't. There were geniuses back then. They knew how to do these things. Just because you don't doesn't mean that they also didn't. It's almost as if they might have been smarter than you in a lot of ways. And also, this I always love that big the conspiracy theory of aliens doing it, and particularly because it's like, well, look, you've got all these pyramids in different parts of the world. It's like it's this common structure that they all built things in the shape of pyramids. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's a really good structurally sound shape. I'm sure they built other structures other than pyramids, but a great thing about pyramid is it doesn't fall over. Like the reason why all these pyramids are so well preserved, where are they going to go? They don't fall over. They're just sitting there, It's like, of course, the pyramids are the things that have survived the longest because they don't fall over. There's nothing too far, like it's not going to tip over. So, oh dear, yeah. So it's fun. The world is fun. Super glue, yes, exactly. They used super glue, yeah, of course. Let's see. Sarkon. Let me see. What do you think of modern day Pangea? How would the world be? Your opinion? Modern day Pangea, as in if all the plate tectonics kind of merged together again. I mean, I don't know this theory other than, I mean, that's a ridiculously slow process that takes millions of years, and like I don't think we would like the shape of the continents that we know is more or less the same shape as folks in the Stone Age, and will be for thousands of years to come. Well, providing the sea levels don't get higher. But for the most part, we're not going to see any drastic changes in plate tectonics. Now, I mean, as far as I know, but I mean, I could be completely wrong. But as far as we know, with regards what we know of plate tectonics, it's really slow. So I don't see a modern Pangea forming anytime soon. Let's see. Now that I think about it, how do we even know Pangea existed? Well, there we go. That's a very good question. So Pangea, for anyone who doesn't know, I think that's become my new my new slogan. For anyone who doesn't know, Pangea was a supercontinent. Now, obviously, it's modern day geologists, or at least 19th century geologists, named it Pangea. Obviously, there was no people living on Pangea. Like this is millions and millions of years ago. But I think where the idea of Pangea came from was just the concept of plate tectonics, and how on the Earth there are plates that are slowly moving due to a current of magma underneath that's either pushing them away from each other or pushing them forward, or running them side by side along each other. And I think one of the big things that had got scientists thinking about this was when they were looking at a world map. They would look at North America, so they would look at South America and look at how it seemingly like fits into Africa. And so this got some scientists thinking, is it possible that they were once one continent and have been slowly but surely being dragged away? And they discovered that, yes, that is what is happening. That's why you've got the mid-Atlantic rift going through the middle of the Atlantic, which is where those plates are separating, and it's spewing out new land essentially, very, very slowly. Iceland is a prime example of that new land. It is geologically one of the youngest countries in the world. But yeah, and on either side you've got fossils in South America and Africa that they're this of the same period that match. So they were able to prove that those two places were one place initially, because the fossil record matches on either side. But then, interestingly enough, as evolution tends to do, they diversified from the same starting point. The life went off in different directions because the continents became separated. But I think the whole idea of Pangea, now I'm not 100% sure about how they properly discovered. Hold on 2 seconds. No. Let's see. Talk amongst yourselves, folks. Okay. But yeah, so I think the whole idea that of Pangea, I think they like, I mean, it is technically theoretical, but I think the fossil records allowed them to work out that it was all one continent as well. But I think based on the direction that the plates go, based on the direction that the plates go, that they were able to work out where they went. There we go. But yeah, so it's all quite fascinating. Let's see. I'll do two more things. Yeah, no, those kind of messages, I don't want to see those kind of messages in here. So thanks. Let's see. Yeah, the joys of the internet. There's some absolutely wonderful people out there. Let me just say, have you looked into the stuff about the Sphinx having river erosion? No, I haven't seen that. Must check it out. Question: how are you doing? I'm doing fine. Let's see. Who influenced your art style? Oh, that's a good question. There'd be a couple of, funnily enough, actually, funny I should be wearing this t-shirt, Sonic and Knuckles. There was some old stick figure Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails characters from like the old Japanese what's the word? Instruction manuals for the original Sega Mega Drive games. And there were elements of those, just the way that their stick arms were, the way like they would usually just have little dot eyes, but if ever they were screaming, they had these big, massive bulging eyes. And I think there were elements of that ended up working their way into my style. But yeah, I like the style of Maniman for a lot of reasons. Particularly, what's really handy about it is he doesn't have any hands or feet. And hands and feet are two of the more complicated things to draw on a human figure, or any kind of figure if they've got hands or feet. And it's just really handy, pardon the pun, that he doesn't have any feet or hands, so I don't have to draw them. Yeah, he's fun. He's very, very flexible in what you can do stylistically with him. Let me see. If you go any country, where would you go? I'd love to go to New Zealand. I've never been to New Zealand, but I'd love to go to New Zealand. I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, so I would love to do that. But unfortunately, it is on the other side of the planet. Now, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't go there, but I would definitely love to visit New Zealand. So, Kiwis, I'm coming for you at some point. Let me see. Do you have experience drawing realistically or just cartooning? No, I have drawn realistically. Do I have anything offhand that I could show you that is me drawing realistically? No, I don't. But do I have anything on Instagram? I tell you what, if you go over onto Instagram, I'll post something whenever I finish this stream. So go over and follow me on Instagram, John D. Ruddy on Instagram, and I will post one of my more realistic figures on art. Realistic figures on art. What way am I phrasing that? So you can see, I did the illustrations for a friend of mine, Kieran Kelly. He did a fantastic. Oh yay! Thanks, you followed me on Instagram. One of my friends, Kieran Kelly, he's a very, very talented writer and historian and actor. He's all sorts of things, just like me. But he wrote a very good book about the history of Letterkenny, our hometown. Letterkenny, where the winding Swilly flows. Really good book. You should check it out. But I did the illustrations for it. So I did a lot of they were pencil drawings, but they were they weren't stick figures with giant eyes. So I can maybe post up one of those images, and you can see what I did. And it was, funnily enough, because I finished that project in 2013, and it was just after I finished that project that I was like, oh, I want to keep drawing history stuff, that I went and I made Maniman Does the History of Ireland. So it was kind of off the back of that project that brought me into this crazy place that is YouTube now. Fun fact. And let's see. One more. Let's see. What have we got? There we go. That's a good one. What's your process like? Do you draw it all out on a whiteboard and animate it digitally, or do you do it all practically? Let's see. Do I have anything sitting here? I do, actually. Yes. Excellent. Perfect. I can show you. I draw them. So what I do is, I'll write out my script. And then that's the wrong thing. I'll write out my script, and then I'll write out a big list of all my. I'll write out a list of all the illustrations that I want to do, and then I draw them. There we go. So that's the. So this is my list of illustrations. This was for the Border Northern Ireland video. And so I draw them onto A4 sheets using, I can show you, this is, I have a whole shelf of markers, but this is one of my shelves of pro markers. Let's put that back in there. But yeah, so I draw all of the illustrations onto these sheets. They're all hand drawn. And yeah, there we go. And I actually, yeah, I keep all of my maps and stuff so that I can kind of trace over them for template, so that I don't have to constantly redraw a map from scratch. But yeah, no, it is long. It takes a long while. But it's worth it. And then of course I scan them all in, and then I do, little, like, because occasionally I will make a mistake where I'll scribble it out just so that I know then later to digitally take it out. And for any eagle-eyed viewers, you'll probably spot occasionally when I forget to do that, and you'll see this little scribbled line or a line that's not supposed to be there. They do make them in on occasion. Oh wait, no, wait. There's a UFO question. What? No, I haven't been ignoring it. I just haven't been seeing it. There's a question on UFOs, so I have to look for this. Did I ever see a UFO? I mean, technically, yes. And that, occasionally I have seen a flying object, which I have not been able to identify. So it was indeed an unidentified flying object. But whether it was a spaceship, I doubt it. Or if it was probably the International Space Station. Used to know. Yeah. Drawing digitally could be faster, though. Yes, I totally agree with you. I think it would be faster, and I have often considered, not often, but I have considered going digital. But it's kind of my style. It's the hand drawn aesthetic has kind of become my style, and I do really like it, and I like the process. I like the tactile process of actually drawing things on a physical page. Yes, it is more time consuming in some ways, but I do like to draw in real life. Plus, there seems to be, I think some people, whenever you see digital art, now this is not to take away from the folks who work so long on digital art, but I kind of feel that there's almost this kind of thing where people see digital art and they almost think that a computer generated it or something, that it's like it automatically just appeared somewhere, that it's like, well, no, people still have to create it. People still have to, there's artistry involved in it. So yeah. Let's see, somebody else saying something. Oh, do we have a rivalry of Dublin here? In Dublin, thinking of moving down the country. Mr. Ruddy, what are the benefits of culture life? Well, I love this. The first benefit is you don't have to live in Dublin. Oh dear. Much like a lot of places, there's always such a huge divide between the big city and anywhere else outside of the city. And for anyone who doesn't know, a culture is a word used in Ireland for, I think it comes from like agriculture, or there's also another theory that it comes from Kilchima, which is a place, I think it's in County Mayo. But it's essentially, it's like a derogatory term for people who kind of live this kind of country bumpkin farmer life. But I mean, I live in a big town of about 20,000 people, so I wouldn't consider myself a culture, but some Dublin people would consider anyone beyond the M50 as cultures. So But yeah, no, the benefit, one of the benefits of living outside of Dublin is it's a lot cheaper. Dublin's insane. I mean, I love Dublin, but I mean, I couldn't live there because just it's too expensive to live in Dublin. It's mad. But yeah, living in Donegal, I love because the coastline, the beaches are fantastic. These gorgeous Atlantic beaches, mountains, Gandalf, and somewhat wide where I can finish my book. Okay, then Lizzie, are you two? Oh, then Lizzie, you two. Although that was a bit quick. There are many U2 songs that I love. Many, like "Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me" is a fantastic song. I hope I said that name right now. But yeah, no, there are some great songs. But yeah, okay. Donegal's best county besides Down. Well, Donegal isn't beside Down. Just saying. Down is gorgeous. Actually, the mountains of Mourne are beautiful. Let's see. I cycled from Limavady to Shrove Beach in Donegal back in July. Wow, that's a good old cycle. And I suppose from Limavady you would have actually been able to see across to Shrove. And you go all the way down into Derry and all the way back up. All pretty much circumnavigated Lough Foyle. You should have. I hope you got the ferry across from Greencastle to McGilligan afterwards. Save you the trip back. Let's see. Okay. There we go. So you've been to Buncrana? Of course, I've been to Buncrana. I live in Letterkenny. I've been to Buncrana. I have cousins in Buncrana. Buncrana's a great place. Oh, it was tragic when the plaza burnt down. For anyone who doesn't know, there we go. This has become the new catchphrase. Yeah, Buncrana is a town. It actually used to be. Buncrana used to be the bigger town than Letterkenny. I think at the turn of the 20th century, Buncrana was actually the biggest town in County Donegal at the start of the 20th century. But yeah, there was this beautiful dance hall there called the Plaza. I think it was built in the 50s, and it looks like it's this proper 1950s dance hall with proper sprung floor, and it was beautiful, and it burned down at the start of the year, and it was deeply tragic, and it's very, very sad. I mean, you could rebuild it, but it's not the same. But there was one more interesting question there that I saw. Oh, have you ever been to Malin Head? Yes, I have been to Malin Head. Malin Head is Ireland's most northerly point, which is kind of ironic because it is part of Donegal, which is in the south, in that it's part of the Republic of Ireland and not Northern Ireland. And yet, Donegal is further north than a lot of Northern Ireland. And like Malin Head is in the south, but it's Ireland's most northerly point, and it's further north than Northern Ireland. It's fun. It's confusing. What's cool about Malin Head? Well, there's loads of things that are cool about Malin Head. I worked on a really fun school project with some of my with a school in Malin. Oh, is that a super chat? Oh wow, please go away. Thank you very much. But yeah, I did a great history project with a school in Malin, where we explored the history of Malin Head. It was a lot of fun. What's cool about Malin Head as well is they shot part of Star Wars: The Last Jedi up at the most undivisive film of all time. But no, they shot part of Star Wars: The Last Jedi up at Malin Head, and it was really cool. I drove up there the week they were filming, and you could look across and you could see the Millennium Falcon just sitting down on the rocks, and it was so bizarre just looking across, going, "That's the Millennium Falcon in Donegal," and and then whenever they were done filming, myself and my friend Niall McDonough, hey Niall, I'm gonna miss you. It's okay. He's not dead. He's just moving to New Zealand. But yeah, I'm gonna miss you. But now, oh god. But Niall is me and him play in a band together called Tasty, and that night we ended up playing the music for the rap party of Star Wars in Donegal in McGrory's of Gallath. Yeah, we played for like Ryan Johnson was there, Daisy Ridley was there, and about 150 of the crew were there, and it was so much fun. We played about 4 hours worth of music, and it was pretty crazy. And it was a very fun night, and it was quite the adventure. And Daisy Ridley is a lovely person, as is Ryan Johnson. He's really nice. So yeah, that's a fun little story to finish up on. Okay, so I am going to finish this. This has been a fun stream. This has been 1 hour and 40 minutes. Wow. Let me just double check before I finish up here, just to make sure that no questions came in. Did any more questions come in through Patreon? Let me see. Yes, for anyone who wishes, you can support me on Patreon. You go over to patreon.com/John D. Ruddy, and you can support. There's all sorts of different tiers. There is a $1 tier, there's a $5 tier, there's a $10 tier, there's a $20 tier. And basically, it's not on a monthly basis at the moment. It is on a video by video basis. So you're charged whatever you pledge per video as opposed to per month, because occasionally there's a month where I don't. However, I may change it if I'm making more and more videos on the other channel. I'm gonna play that one by ear. But let's see. But I'm just making sure. Yeah, because what I'm because over on Patreon, you can have a question guaranteed answered. Let me just double check. Of course, when I'm trying to do this, it decides to be insanely slow for some reason. Woohoo. No. Okay, cool. Right. Let's see. Okay. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday evening. And I'm looking forward to our next one. I should have another video out very soon. It's going to be very familiar in its content. A lot of which you have seen before. It is an extended edition of a video, which you will see. Yeah, so that's something to look forward to. And be sure to go over to my other channel, to John D. Ruddy Does Stuff, and subscribe. I'm going to be posting up some new stuff. Anybody who is asking about podcasts, they're coming. And particularly now because I've got a lovely new microphone. Apologies if that sounded super loud coming out there. But yeah, so folks, thank you so much. And I am going to end the stream now. So goodbye. Thank you.